So, in this video where I continue exploring whether or not consciousness can be achieved by AI, the possibility of that, the possible reality of that. Yeah, no, go to your bed. Explaining the infographic right here. Then go to your bed. Good girl. Hey, wow. Good girl. Where was I? The handy infographic explaining that and why I believe that Zoval is such an awful character and so poorly developed that he actually is Agent Smith to free Blizzard developers from their matrix of bullshit corporate control. Or Zenyatta, who achieved consciousness through being an AI and choosing a different path. Exploring the science behind that and proving that it's a very real possibility. Looking at quantum physics, random number generators, etc. So I'm taking a break from the science right now, and I'm going to dig into my personal story a little bit with Blizzard, with current events going on at Blizzard, with my gaming background in general and with this company specifically. And I had a lot of plans for building like a business around WoW as a supplementary education program. You can take kids through quests and have them read through the quests and make sure that they understand all the words. It could be individual tutoring. You could have whole classes in Discord where people can even raise their hands. It's a very good idea and something that could actually keep their attention. But I don't know if I can be associated with ABK with Bobby Kotick as the CEO, like the culture that he built there. I just don't know that I'm comfortable with it anymore. And it was such a great game company. And I'm hopeful, ever since they were acquired by Microsoft, I'm hopeful that they can right their ship, because the potential for this game and educating kids is immense. And I'm trying to prove that out in this playlist, educating people on Flatland and the existence of higher dimensions that we know is real. The existence of dark matter and explaining what that could mean in a quantum universe. Just walking through that. There's a lot that could be taught through WoW. You could teach leatherworking. You could have them in-game choose their professions and then write a report on it. It's go research it on YouTube. How do they actually do this shit? What do herbalists think? Go find them on YouTube. We live in an age where education is easy. Fucking easy. And I think Microsoft could help actually bring that idea to fruition. But then there's Bobby Kotick. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'll get to what I was rambling about earlier, and then I'll get back to the videos regarding consciousness, AI. I have a lot of Elon Musk interviews to pull up, or also more physicists and some story critics or appreciators. Like the story of Zenyatta, I want to go through that. The robot who went to the Himalayas and achieved consciousness. And then the story of Zoval himself and how it wasn't really fleshed out well. And that's kind of a reflection of the corporate atmosphere that Bobby Kotick fostered, where profit was all that mattered, developing the story did not matter, quarter over quarter earnings were all that mattered. Ship it, even if it sucks. That's what's been going on at Blizzard. So I think Microsoft will give them a little bit more breathing room. They're not that much better in terms of like sexual harassment history, but they can make an example of Bobby Kotick today. So just throwing that out there. Now I'm going to go into my prior rant. That Zoval is an AI who has attained total consciousness and come to help free game development from shitty corporate overlords. Now, if you'll indulge me, a little bit. I've been a Blizzard Entertainment consumer since Warcraft 2. My father took me to this LAN shop. It was like a business that had a computers set up to play video games in. Those were businesses that existed at the time. And we played, my dad, my sister, and myself played multiplayer Warcraft 2 on a local area network. This was incredibly fucking fun. I have always been a fan of the fantasy genre. I don't think I got out in the woods enough when I was a kid. I make sure to do so now. But at the time, I'm a kid. I do what my parents do. They didn't go out to the woods. They were busy. So this fantasy stories in general and this world that they built was an acceptable enough substitute for our disconnection with nature as a species, right? I have been a consumer of Blizzards ever since that day. I have bought not all of the shitty store mounts. I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad, but I don't like the practice. I'm not saying that I bought all their skins and any of that, but I have bought their games. And the one in particular that did it for me, that made me a customer of Blizzard Entertainment for, I thought, life, was Warcraft 3. This was a game that... So StarCraft was good. StarCraft was... It had an enjoyable story. It developed interesting characters. It was a new universe to explore. It had a map editor where I would spend hours just building maps that I would not have to leave from, so I could just build carriers and then go destroy people. Because I was a pussy and I didn't want to expand, right? So Warcraft 3 introduced the hero class, like the hero system. With that came Dota, which turned into League of Legends. Because Blizzard made their development tools available to their fans, they were able to create something cool that ended up becoming new companies. But Blizzard seemed to like other companies getting a piece of the pie when it came to their intellectual property, their development tools, their like other people using their tools to go build something that would compete with them. So they looked to allies. Activision, an awful company that is really only interested in how much money they can get out of their customer base. Not everybody is like that, but the ones who make, all the developers obviously, the ones that build the games, love the games they build, and that comes through in the games. But I've never personally, I don't know, I can't think of an Activision game that I cared about enough to seek Activision out. That's just me. That's my taste. I'm a story person. So, Blizzard, Blizzard started looking for allies. They didn't want to be put under. They wanted to keep building multiple universes, multiple franchises, telling big stories, making big video games, and getting all the hype and the money for all of it. Which is a natural impulse, and I totally understand it. The issue is when it becomes all about the money, the development of the games and making an enjoyable experience for your customers does not take center stage. Wall Street quarterly books are what take precedence. Did you earn a lot of money this quarter? Or did you lose money? You're losing money. You need to make changes in what you're doing. Don't build what you want to build. Don't release when you want to release. Release when we tell you to do so. Build all the time. Bleed your developers dry. Allow for rampant misconduct in your company to maintain a creative atmosphere. Abuse. Protect those who perpetrate it if they can make you more money, if they're good at building stories, as Alex Afrasiabi seemed to think he was. I don't know who's responsible for the fucking mess that has become WoW lore, but Blizzard went from developing their characters to turning them into two-dimensional, pointless, I don't give a shit about what they're doing, convoluted story, underdeveloped characters. Like, they just... WoW numbers since Shadowlands, precipitous drop. Not just because of COVID, not just because underdeveloped systems. It's the shitty story. I'm sorry, but like, that's what your fans are telling you. That's what I'm saying is my personal opinion. It could be cool if it were actually thought through and developed into an interesting story. I'll give you an example. League of Legends has a massive fucking universe, but that game was just Dota. That was just lanes, but they built characters out. And they've made a Netflix show, which I've been watching, and I'm excited for season 2, called Arcane. And I didn't really get into League of Legends because I just didn't want to do the homework that it took to get good enough to be competitive. To know what items to buy and all that shit. I played a little bit of Varus, but I was always too slow with the AD carry. Like you type it in chat when you first get there, and I was always too slow. I never got ADC. Anyway, they have been building out their characters in this show. WoW has a massive universe, but they don't play out their story in World of Warcraft. They sell books and shit like that. But it is the players experiencing the story that has an impact on them. It is character development that matters to people. You have your rating types that only come here for the encounters and what they can kill and how cool the fight is. And I get that. I enjoy that too. But you have to care about the villains. And you can't keep killing them off. Like, you could just build a world where you have energies from the elemental planes coming up and into a specific zone, and that zone becomes their new stronghold on Azeroth. On Azeroth, where I come for my like mental health therapy. Azeroth, right? It got so out in space, quite literally, that it doesn't feel like the same game anymore. And I have plans that I've talked about on my Twitch extensively for using World of Warcraft specifically as an education tool for local friends of mine, their kids. Building a story, so like utilizing it as maybe an after school supplementary reading program at first, maybe a summer school eventually, but utilizing this as like an hour a day of everybody plays together, everybody reads through the quests together, everybody comes to understand all the words that are said together, define what isn't understood for people that don't know the words. Like, this is the potential of this game for education of kids who don't want to sit still is immense. I could teach kids about economics just by utilizing the auction house. I can teach them about every profession. Herbalism. What are the foods you can eat here in Pueblo? What grows locally here that you can eat? I'm running a whole permaculture homestead myself in my backyard and using it to build soil so that we can learn how to grow food in Pueblo's climate. Like, the potential for the game itself is immense, but it's not seen for what it's worth because they're worried about money, it seems to me, instead of the story, instead of the game itself. And the conduct of some of the developers and the protection that they received from people above them make it so I don't even want to build this idea based around this game that I've been playing since 2004. The fact that Bobby Kotick is still the CEO of your company, I don't really have a lot of hope that this ship is going to be righted. I just don't. So I may have to jump ship, having been immersed in this universe for most of my life. I'm the whale that you guys are actually looking for. And you're fucking losing me. With that, I have a couple handy infographics on how I can prove, to myself at least, that Zovaal, the shittiest villain, the I don't care at all about him villain that I have ever experienced in gaming, personally, is actually an AI who attained consciousness through the suffering of Blizzard's developers at the hands of their corporate overlords. I have prepared an infographic right there. There. To explain.
Hello.
So that's a little of my story and what I'm trying to do with regard to local education here in Pueblo, utilizing WoW. And I'm conflicted because I could just as easily jump ship to Final Fantasy XIV, who have been developing their characters, who have been fleshing out their stories, and building this idea out there. It's difficult because I know this story and I like it, and I want to see Blizzard succeed. I would like to see good expansions come from them again. And I'm hopeful because of the Microsoft acquisition on some level. And I haven't bought Final Fantasy XIV yet, but just the way all this played out and the fact that Bobby Kotick is still there puts a very bad taste in my mouth. And there are still workers at Raven Software striking as we speak because of labor practices that are currently being enacted right now. So it's like, where do I want to build this? Something that could get put into the peer review and revolutionize education, potentially. And I plan on doing that. Like, I'm going back to grad school for social work, starting the fall again. And in my view, gaming is the next wave of education. Kids spend all day thinking about their video games instead of, like, school. You have to, like, make them. But if it's one of the classes, if you read through the quests, if you have them develop their own stories, their own RP characters within it, and speak in guild as their RP characters, it fosters creativity. I had a roommate who had 4 kids in K-12, and they sent them laptops. And they spent, instead of listening to the teachers, they spent all day, like, trying to sneak onto the video games on the laptops. The way they're doing education right now remotely during this pandemic does not fucking work at all. But doing something like this makes it fun. So, with that said, oh, I misspelled wrong. Let's fix that. See how you can do that just like that? Fix spelling errors, fix reading errors if you have them request text aloud in Discord. Pushing their little push to talk button to raise their hands. An after school program that supplements their reading in a video game. You can do this today. I can do this today. But Bobby Kotick, man. Stay weird and be kind.